Hello and welcome to our Mexico City edition of My Surrogacy Journey, the podcast for our US intended parents. Now, that was a mouthful.
Oh my God. These titles of these podcasts just get... Can you say it again? Just so I get it one more time.
Yeah, sure.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to My Surrogacy Journey. I've got it wrong now. It says, welcome to our Mexico City edition of My Surrogacy Journey, the podcast for US intended. There we go. Hello, I am Wes. I'm one of your hosts. I'm a dad through surrogacy. I have 2 children through surrogacy with my husband over there, Michael. Hello. We are about to do our embryo transfer for our next journey, which is through our Mexico City pathway. So I'm going to stop talking now, hand over to my husband over there, Michael.
Thank you. Well, you probably haven't heard us before, you lovely listener. If you have, then welcome back. I'm Michael, as Wes just said. I am a dad through surrogacy. We have Talulah, who is our bundle of firecracker joy. She's 8 years old. And we've got Duke, who's 5.
And let's be honest, the Talulah runs our house.
Oh, Talulah runs our house. Yeah.
As she should.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's independent women.
And don't we know it? So, yeah, Wes and I, have been working in this field now for close to 10 years, and we run a number of organisations, and the main one being the one that you're here to learn more about today. So My Surrogacy Journey is a leading surrogacy organisation, and we have multiple services and ethics behind the work that we do. And you're going to learn all about that in a minute, but I want to introduce you to the fabulous Jessica Williams, who is our co-host on this brand new season.
I'm so excited to be here and to join you guys and be talking to you lovely listener.
I know. And tell us about you and what brought you to surrogacy.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Jess, and I am a mom through surrogacy. I'm a former intended parent. After many years of infertility struggles and testing and an IVF journey, my husband and I just could not get pregnant and decided that we needed to do something to kind of change our course. Mm-hmm. And after a lot of soul searching, a lot of discussions between us, between our family, between our friends, we decided that surrogacy was the right path for us to become parents. And we were so fortunate. We did a journey in the US, worked with an absolutely amazing surrogate, Arizona, and our son Lincoln was born. Week 0 COVID baby, pandemic baby 2020, which was an interesting way to...
Yes, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
Yes. Luckily, that is hopefully not in nerve anymore. But so we had Lincoln, and then when Lincoln was a couple of months old, after struggling with infertility for, however many years, I fell pregnant and had my second son, Reese, when Lincoln was 13 months old. So I am now the proud mom of 2 absolutely amazing boys and loving it. And I think just like you guys and like so many people who have gone through a surrogacy journey or experienced infertility, I just became so passionate about helping other people through my own experience and seeing if what I went through, if it could be of any help to anybody else. I wanted to use my experience, hopefully for good.
Yeah.
And so I ended my former career as an archaeologist and museum curator.
And I love the fact that your background, and that's what I love about our business, about the people that work for us, so diverse.
It is, but I think if you, and I was going to say this just after you finish, is that like surrogacy has changed all of our lives in ways that we just could not have predicted. No. Michael and I both had corporate jobs. Yeah. We surrogacy has had a massive imprint on our lives and changed the trajectory of our career, our lives, and now the way that we help other intended parents.
Our life's work has changed. As is yours.
Yes, it's a totally different purpose. I mean, that's the thing. You go through surrogacy and you think, okay, well, at the end of this, hopefully I'm going to have a very beloved child. But oh my gosh, my whole world has changed in the best way
Yeah.
possible.
Oh,
Absolutely best way
preach
possible.
to that.
And we see that through other members of our
do,
team.
we
You know,
do.
like we're really blessed in our team that there's lots of people, not all, because it's not possible for everyone, right? But there's so many people in our team who have been touched and experienced surrogacy, whether they've been a donor, whether they've been a surrogate, whether they've been intended parents. There's so many, and I think what that really adds to those people who are being supported by us is such valued lived experience. And it's not everything, but
No.
but I think we definitely look at it through a very different lens.
Yeah.
And are able to massively empathize with the intended parents and the surrogates and the donors, everyone who's been touched by it. You know, we very much look at it through a different lens, and it's one that massively is supportive.
Absolutely, because it really adds that human element back into it. It's not just, yes, there is a lot of legal and clinical and everything that we're going to talk about, in this podcast, but at the base of it are people and humans and emotions. And when you've experienced that, or you've had friends or family who've experienced that, even if you've not done it yourself, it just puts a completely different perspective on it, I think.
It really does. And I think what I like about what we do and the people that choose to work for us is there is that balance of people within our business. We're not just a team of people that have been surrogates or have been intended parents. It is that broad spectrum, and I think that is that balance, which is one of our key guiding principles. And again, you're going to learn more about what these principles are, and they're going to be very clear as to why our Mexico City program is going to be something you're so interested to learn more about, because the timing of the introduction of the launch of this in the US is really key. And again, choice is
Really important.
a really important part of this.
We are a UK surrogacy organisation. We're based in the UK.
A UK founded surrogacy
Founded surrogacy. Thank you. Absolutely. Correction. But we made some major changes to the way that we're supporting people, the way that surrogacy operates in the UK. Surrogacy in the UK is very different to the US. It's not commercial, it's altruistic.
Yep.
And
it's only available to those people that are domiciled. So it's not, you're not here today to learn about our UK business, but that's where it all began.
Exactly. And let's just clarify, altruistic basically means that surrogates can't be paid compensation.
Correct.
And domicile means that it's not just who is resident in the UK.
Correct.
It's an incredibly strict standard.
Yes, it is. And it's one that gives us all a headache from time to time. But we haven't got to worry about that today.
But let's talk about really what drove us to
Yeah.
our organisation. And it's because Mike and I had two journeys through the UK. We were blessed with two children, Talulah and Duke, through surrogacy in the UK. But we made lots of mistakes.
We did.
We
weren't being guided.
We didn't get any support. It really highlighted lots of emotional elements that we just weren't prepared for. Michael, let's be really honest, it nearly broke.
It really destroyed our marriage.
It really nearly broke us. And after reflecting on both of those journeys, Michael and I just decided that there had to be a much more structured way and supportive way to be able to help people navigate through what is a really complex process.
Yeah.
And it's actually a lot more simple in the UK, whereas in the US, there's a lot more.
So many components.
And it's a lot.
And choice.
Choice, right?
Overwhelming choice sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's what we hear from a lot of people, because we do support some UK intended parents doing surrogacy in the US. And what we hear from them is how overwhelming it is, how much choice. There's so many decisions to be made. Are people making decisions at the right time? There's so many. We know surrogacy is complex, but our program and the way that we approach surrogacy is really designed to take all of that complexity, that stress and that anxiety out of it. And I can confidently say that no other organization in the world operates and manages surrogacy in the way that we do it. Now, Jess, you haven't been at the organization as long as Mike and I, but give us your view of My Surrogacy Journey and how you view it as a US intended parent. How would you describe that to people?
Oh my gosh, how much time do I have? No, I think the way that you guys have set up My Surrogacy Journey is incredible, because it still allows intended parents to have those choices, which is you guys just talked about, is so incredibly important for intended parents, but also for, from your ethical perspective as intended parents yourself. But it streamlines everything. It streamlines the process to give intended parents enough choice so that they still are able to personalize their journey, but also feel confident that the partnerships, that the work is going to happen faster and more efficiently. But also the team and the setup that you have created to support intended parents is so holistic. I think
Yeah,
probably the
thank
best
you.
word that I can think of to describe it, because it really is kind of a 360 hug almost, to make sure that intended parents feel supported in every facet. And that's not just, again, the big kind of things like clinical and legal and practical, but it's things like the mental health support, feeling prepared for a baby, first aid courses, that nobody thinks of providing a first aid course, but
You forget as well, because Wes and I have been living this for, my word, forever now, and you forget actually how much we do. And I remember when we were giving an overview of the program to a reproductive specialist in North America, and they were all like, "This is a game changer. What you do, I don't." And they were like, "I don't think you understand what you've created and how people are ready for this here in the United States."
Yeah. And I think we talk about a lot, don't we? As intended parents, if you've not been through or experienced this before, you don't know what
I was going to say that. That's your phrase.
and that's really important. And they're like, and we shouldn't expect people to know, because as a service provider and as experts in this field, this is our job. It's our job to prepare you, make sure you're focusing on the things that you think that you should be focusing on at the right time.
When you guys were creating this program, just out of curiosity, I don't think I've ever asked you this, did you literally just sit down and write a wish list of everything that you had?
We wished we had. Yeah,
And then
we
you were like,
did.
let's put this in
We
the
did.
program.
They absolutely did exactly that. And we were like, what about this?
What about prenatal education? What about...
Because so let's look at people who create their families in the more traditional way. They don't need surrogacy. No one prepares them to be parents. We just assume that when the baby arrives, they're going to have all of the skills they need. We assume that they're going to have all of the skills that they need through pregnancy. We assume that everyone has the emotional intelligence or the know-how how to manage the complex.
Oh, it's terrifying when you get handed this little crying pink thing. And I, listener, that's our goal, to get you to that position. But even friends that have had children through, more traditional methods, they all say, what the hell am I doing now? And we felt that.
Oh my gosh. Well, I had to ask a nurse how to change diapers.
Yeah.
And we took a prenatal course over here in the UK. And I was hoping it would provide some of those life skills, but it was about 5 sessions of giving birth, and then here's how to breastfeed, none of which actually applied to me.
Exactly.
So when we got, when we had Lincoln, I was like, how do I change it?
Yeah,
How do I do any of this?
But all of those really practical things are really important and make a massive difference to your experience. But I think one of the things that hit Michael and I really hard, and one things that we just were not prepared for, one, we didn't know it was coming, and two, when it hit us, we just didn't know how to deal with it, was like, how do you go from being a two, and how does your relationship status change from being you two and everything that you know to another person coming in, and how does it change your dynamic? And there's all those elements. And then also, from a same-sex point of view, when you're dealing with, one
or when you're dealing with donor conception.
or donor conception generally, and that there's this genetic link to one of them, maybe not the other. How would you deal with that?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? And what dynamic does that play in? And how do you process that? And it just goes on and on.
Oh, absolutely. And from an infertility perspective, if you have gone through an infertility journey for whatever reason, how do you process having somebody else carry your baby?
The step change.
The step change. How do you process those emotions of being incredibly excited to be pregnant or for your surrogate to be pregnant, but also at the same time incredibly terrified that something might happen based on what you have experienced yourself. And then when your baby is here, it's almost like, oh my gosh, this is too good to be true.
Yeah.
You have waited so long to arrive to this point, and then it's like, oh my gosh, what now?
Yeah. And that,
You don't think it's going to happen?
You kind of don't like.
And you don't even want to be thinking ahead of yourself, do you? Because you've got and you've had history of things not going well, so you just can't get yourself in that headspace of the happy ever after, because you've been wanting that for years, for decades, for some people.
And I think that's one of the key things for surrogacy is that no matter why anybody has to come to surrogacy, what I always say is very often, I'd say 99% of the cases, nobody wants to have to do surrogacy.
No.
This is nobody's necessarily preferred choice. And whatever reason you're doing it, there's going to be so many different emotions bubbling beneath the surface.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult when you have so many practical, logistical things to focus on at the same time. I think a lot of those emotions the emotions and preparation for the pregnancy and for the birth and for raising a child can just be pushed to the side because your sole focus for so many people is just on getting to that end goal, actually welcoming your baby.
And whilst all of that is, and I think that's the fight in us, isn't it? That is what we feel like we then have to do, and what we all seem to do is we then neglect the other stuff. It's the self-care, it's our marriage or our relationship, it's not unpacking, certainly for me and Wes, the genetic loss for ultimately one of our children that the other person isn't. And no one told me and Wes about genetic loss and what would that mean, and how we would grieve.
It's solving certain types of behaviors and things. And I think, just back to your question, how did we then kind of build our program? And it's like, it was looking at all of these elements and then looking and recognizing that everyone comes to surrogacy from a very different place. Everyone comes here with different needs and different emotional requirements. And how do we then tailor and create a membership, because we're a membership-based organization, and that's the difference. It kind of packed with a lot of these benefits, but how do we create an environment that is designed to pick you up and manage all of the components that you need, and get you through that in the most emotionally, practically, legal, all of
safest way,
all of the elements. And that's what we've thought of. And the reason we've thought about it in that way is because we've been on that journey. And we work with people like you, and we work with lots of professionals within our team to make sure that we've got that infrastructure for people.
And I think that is, for me, one of the key differences in what MSJ represents and can offer to people considering surrogacy is, yes, all of those, the practical things, of course, they're going to be taken care of because that's what we do, and we're going to do it in the most efficient way. But it's how do you lift people up as they're doing the journey and provide that, that really, I hate to describe it almost, but like as a cushy blanket to wrap you in, to make sure that all of those other things are being taken care of as well. Because the practical, that should be done well and efficiently and ethically and legal,
as standard.
So as standard.
Yeah, bare minimum. That is, you should be getting that regardless.
Exactly. But it's everything else that is provided so that intended parents don't necessarily have to think about what else they need, because we can say, here, this, we and you have somebody who's going to be there supporting you and reminding you and making sure that you are taking care of you the whole time.
Absolutely. And we also know, right? No surrogacy journey is just linear.
Oh, no.
And there are going to be bumps in the road, and we prepare you for bumps in the road because we know they're coming. Some bumps are big, some bumps are small, but irrelevant. We build this scaffolding around you and your journey so that when you hit the bumps, we hit them with you. And our team are so solutions focused and so expert in managing those elements of the journey. And that's what you get from us as well. It's about how do we continue to navigate you all the way through the journey, hit the highs with you and celebrate with you. But when the lows are there, we're human, and also because we've been through it, we feel it hard. But that's what you get from an organization of people who care and who are committed to helping you navigate through a really complex, but hopefully a journey that's going to create the family that you have been trying to create in whichever shape or form. But really help people get to that end goal. So let's just, I mean, we could be here all day, and
We could. We really could.
But we usually are.
I know. And we appreciate, listening, that you're thinking, oh God, I've got half an hour. I'm going to check this new podcast and hear these new voices. So let's give you some.
Talk about Mexico. Why Mexico?
Yeah.
Why Mexico City? Because a lot of people ask us this question, Michael. Why Mexico City?
And the truth is, we created the Mexico City pathway at a point where options for international surrogacy, no matter where you were from, but at the time, obviously, we were in the UK, there was something happening out there in Ukraine. And the Ukraine was the fourth most popular destination for heterosexual people in Europe. And we wanted to find a solution that was safe, that was ethical, that was supportive, that was groundbreaking, that hadn't been done. And Mexico has always been on our radar. It was a destination that we first looked at in 2014, Tabasco, before there was a collapse at that particular point, before the Supreme Court ruling that happened in 2021. And that's really important. I'm going to come back to that point, listener. But Mexico is an incredibly diverse country and has exceptional private healthcare and fertility treatment, and has a legal framework and a robust framework to protect the rights of women and children that are involved in surrogacy.
But also recognise the rights and the parentage of the intended parents.
Yeah.
And that's really important, because you do go to some countries where, they don't get that legal recognition until they go back home, or, surrogacy is complex, and international jurisdictions is complex,
Yep.
and immigration is complex. It's never straightforward. But I think one of the drivers for us is that, both intended parents could be recognised legally in Mexico City. Both of them would appear on the birth certificate. We don't have to do anything like keeping the surrogate on the birth certificate to be able to achieve that. There's a good legal framework where they can be successful. There's an infrastructure through the US to be able to get legal recognition for the baby, to be able to then to return back to the US. So
Yeah.
there's lots of pros. And when we look at a destination, and look, let's be really honest, we only support 3 destinations. We support the UK, we support Mexico City, and we support the US, as in people going to the US to do surrogacy.
Yeah.
And the reason we only support those is because, we have a very strict criteria on destinations. Can people be successful? Do we have a partner network to be able to support people? Can we build our own network of our own office to be able to support people? Is there a legal framework? And that the risk, and is it safe?
Yeah.
And is the risk at the minimal amount that we're happy to accept? Because let's just be honest, like even surrogacy in the US, there's a risk associated with it.
No destination's perfect. And we openly say this.
But it's always about managing risk, right? And that's what we do with an organization. We manage risk with you, but we put you in a good starting place by working in a destination where risk is at the minimal level anyway.
Yeah. And that is super important to us with how we onboard people, with how we attract and screen surrogates. But the one thing you didn't mention is the cost. And that was one of the attractive parts to Mexico City. We wanted to find a destination that was on par with the cost with destinations that were popular or emerging.
But I think it's about making it financially accessible, isn't it? We know that
yeah.
there are lots of barriers to surrogacy for some people, and for some people, they just can't achieve it, right?
And we insurmountable.
Absolutely, and that for us never feels right, because Michael and I, in our business, and Jess, you'll testament to this, is like I always say to the team, what's the right thing to do, right?
Absolutely.
And finding a financially viable destination that makes it accessible for more and more people, because ultimately we're all here to create families, and because we've been touched through it in our own lives. And could you imagine not being able to have your children, right?
Oh my gosh.
And it's about
Those are nightmares.
yeah, how do we make a pathway that is financially accessible, that's safe, that has legal certainty, that has the ability to be able to return and recognize in the country where you're returning back to. That was what was important to us. And that's why Mexico, and more specifically Mexico City, because we only work in Mexico City, is and that's really what has driven us to accelerate our program, to now offer it to American intended parents and build an infrastructure very tailored to American intended parents and the needs of that. We offer this pathway to Europeans, we offer it to people in Asia, we offer it to the UK, and all of our pathways are very tailored to the needs of that specific group of people. And with your help, Jess, with your expertise, we've been able to build a pathway for US intended parents, which is very specifically tailored to the needs of US intended parents. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about kind of the thought process and the kind of the things that you've thought about for US
The US
intended
market.
parents? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in some ways it was, I don't want to say easy, but what you guys had already built with MSJ in Mexico City, it was such a robust foundation. The team out there is incredible. The processes, the partnerships that you have, formulated since you decided that Mexico City was going to be the place, to focus on, has been incredible. And so, again, wasn't necessarily easy, but there was such a great foundation that what we just had to do was look at what Americans really needed to do surrogacy, and to do surrogacy safely and ethically internationally. So a lot of it was about understanding the legal framework. How can an American who is going abroad not only get parentage in their overseas destination, so in this case Mexico City, but how do they bring their child back? How do they make sure that their child is recognized by the US as a US citizen? Are there any additional steps that they need to guarantee parentage once they're back in the US? And finding partners to work with in the US as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think it'll be a surprise to you that it's actually an incredibly niche area of professional work. But, with a lot of research and a lot of actually goodwill and introductions by people in the field, we were able to find some absolutely amazing,
Phenomenal.
oh my gosh, they're so
The
incredible.
partners that we're with for US intended parents, for you listening, you will have access to the leading experts in their field that are working with us to hold you, keep you safe, protect you and your family.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Experience of Mexico, and guiding that process, and we'll be supporting you and uplifting you. And
it's that open mind to the pathway, because that's often the nervousness when you say we have a program in Mexico City. Sometimes you do see people sit back a bit or feel a bit uncomfortable. And again, this whole podcast, this whole brand new season, we're going to be diving into some of those difficult conversations or busting these myths about this destination.
But what I love about all the partners that we have worked with, so all the amazing legal partners in the States, the mental health professionals that we are working with, I mean, we have an absolutely incredible cohort. All the clinical partners,
The counselor.
I just adore them. I learn so much at any time that I'm chatting with them, and they just bring so many great ideas. But what I love about all of the partners is that they came in not only with an open mind, but they really questioned the program.
Oh, yeah, they interrogated it.
Oh my gosh, which is absolutely what they should do. But
Absolutely.
they were, once they saw what we did and understood the structure and the support and the membership and the team, oh my gosh, they were just so excited about what we had to offer, the stability, because it really fills a hole that has kind of existed in the States for people who just aren't able to afford surrogacy in the US. There's a huge demographic of people,
And that's rising.
And
Financial infertility is real.
Exactly.
It's another form of infertility on the rise.
Yes. And so, people are effectively spending their children's college education to have a child. They're spending that amount of money
With no guarantee that they're going to get a child. And that's the sad. No.
So I think what I love about all of our partners in the States is that once they understood the program and, they come on board, so wholeheartedly. The amount of introductions and
Yeah.
networks that
It's
they've
been amazing
opened
to
up.
see how people have
Point.
been committed to supporting
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And I think like let's just like call this what it is. And there are a lot of people who very much look down on Mexico programs and just wouldn't consider doing a journey in Mexico because of how they're just so afraid of
The scaremonger.
scared. It is, but I also think that, and this we saw this from some of those partners, is that what we have built is on par, or if not better than a lot of the programs that operate in the US.
I will absolutely hold up my hand. And, I've known you guys for a long time. And when you first were telling me about the Mexico City program, I was skeptical.
Yeah, I remember our conversation.
And you know what? That's good. It's good because we should be.
Yes. And I have to admit, I probably had a lot of internal bias, about people going to Mexico City and working there. But seeing the work that you guys have done and experiencing it and, just seeing how much thought has gone into it and actually confronting some of those internal biases that I had,
Yeah.
but also seeing some of those internal biases are based in fact and based in how other surrogacy agencies run. But what you guys have done is taken not only your lived experience, but almost like cherry picked the best of surrogacy from every jurisdiction. So the best of the UK, the best of the US, the best
Absolutely.
of, best practices everywhere, and really combine them. And I think, and I can see that. And I know that the partners in the States that we have gathered to uplift and support all of our American intended parents can see that as well. And that's why it opened those doors.
It is, and they can see it loud and clear. And I think it's like, and Jess, you and I have been on the calls with some of these, and it's like a light bulb moment. You can see when they're like,
Yes.
and you can see it change. Like, I know this thing is really.
Let's be really honest and let's be bold here. And there is not a organization or a pathway or program to this level.
No.
It has never been created.
Correct.
And that is the feedback that not only we sometimes forget because we live and we breathe it, but this is the constant recognition and reminder that we then get from new partners or when new intending parents talk to us, that they're almost like, is this real? It's that, is this happening?
What's more than that is it's dynamic. And I feel that a lot of surrogacy, particularly in the UK or the US, and this is exactly why you guys started MSJ in the first place, has almost become stagnant. There is a way of doing it and it works. And
people just keep doing what they've always done.
You're just going to do what you've done for the past 10, 20, 30 years.
It hasn't evolved. Surrogacy is surrogacy.
Exactly. And you guys are constant, there's an incredible framework in place, but you guys are always pushing to figure out ways to do it better, safer, more ethically, more efficiently, and with better supports. And I think that is also a huge part of what sets this program apart from any other.
And I'm really glad that you picked up on that because that's why we launched in the UK initially. It was to challenge that landscape there. It was
operated in the same way for 30 years. No one had changed.
No one had challenged or changed it.
It was done.
Yeah.
Well, and I know you know this, Jess, we just don't do this is how it's done. Like, no, we're not. We don't. And like, it's really interesting because like, people should do their research,
Absolutely.
And we don't say, just come to us.
No.
Because talk to and do your research. This is big financial commitment. You've got to get this right. And some people only have one shot at this. So get it right.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, and look, I was on a call last night with some intended parents, not from the US, but from the UK. And they'd previously had a call with Michael. And they came off the call and they said, this is too good to be true. And that's exactly what they said. They just thought, is this AI? This is too good to be true. So they then had loads of questions, had a follow-up call with me. And they said that to me last night. And I was like, look, I understand how that may look, but like, this is real.
Yeah.
And everything we say we're going to do, we do. And that's another thing that we talked to our team about. Like, if we say we're going to do it,
absolutely,
we've got to do it,
But you also acknowledge that it's not going to be perfect, and there's still going to be hiccups along the way.
Yeah.
But we are going to do everything that we can.
Yeah.
And genuinely do everything that we can.
Yeah.
But you also prepare intended parents for that. So yes, in some ways this program is too good to be true, but you don't sugarcoat it for IP.
And that's one of our biggest jobs, is that we have to manage expectation, and we manage expectation from the minute they are on the call with us. So when we have that initial consultation, we're always really honest.
Yeah, we really are. And already the interest is rising week on week. You know, you were speaking to someone in New York yesterday. You and I were talking to someone in Texas the week before. You know, the program, the reputation that we have, and the pathway is being noticed and it's being heard. And this whole podcast season for you that's listening is this first introduction to our work, our passion, our values, and the benefits that you get from working with us.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for you to know that, yes, our US to Mexico City pathway, that particular element might be new. And, we have done so much work over the past year to make sure that this is perfectly tailored to Americans coming to Mexico City. But the foundations are so solid because this is what you guys have been doing. This is not this might be a new program for American to the US, but it's not actually a new program.
This is what we and our team do best. We have boots on the ground in Mexico City, a team of healthcare professionals, obstetricians, nurses, doctors, membership managers, operations managers. I can't even give you the number of people we employ because it's growing weekly. Right here, right now, it's getting close to 60. But,
every one-on-one, it's like, oh gosh, there's somebody new, which is so exciting.
Which is amazing. We're bringing in talent that is making sure our members, whether you're a surrogate, whether you're an intended parent, whether you're an egg donor, your support is completely bespoke to the needs of you.
Yeah. But I think that's a really good point, Jess. Yes, it's a new program to US intended parents, but we've been operating for a couple of years out of Mexico. We've got a well-established and dedicated team. We are doing a significant number of European intended parents through our program. We have in the double digits numbers of pregnancies and babies due in 2025. And that's only going to continue to grow. So I think you're right to point out, I don't want our listener to think that this is a brand new program and they're going to be the guinea pigs going through it.
No.
Absolutely not.
Exactly. And it's the same with the partners that we're working with in the US. This might not necessarily our legal partners. They've done a huge amount of work overseas. That's their speciality. But for some of for example, our amazing mental health providers, yes, this might be the first time that they themselves are working with intended parents going overseas for surrogacy, but actually they have been in the third-party world and third-party mental health experts for years and are on boards, are at the forefront of what
leaders in their field.
Thank you. That's the word that I was looking for. Absolutely. We are so fortunate to be able to partner with them, and it's that expertise, and I don't even want to know how many cumulative years of expertise in the world.
It's why we've chosen them. It's why we've gone out to them, and it's why we wanted them to choose us.
Yes, but it's what the intended parents and our members deserve.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So look, we could go on all day and I'm really enjoying our conversation, but let's give the listener a bit of a flavour of the other episodes that we're going to be recording that they can look forward to. Because look, the reason we record this session is like, how do we help them and prepare them and skill them with all of the things they need to be ready for a journey, and that's the really important thing.
It is. And if you are familiar with our podcast seasons already, we've obviously got 3 seasons all about the UK, and we've got a season about our Mexico City program already for UK intended parents. So you may have dived already into some of those episodes and you've seen, the obstetrician that's going to be delivering your baby. You may have seen some of the doctors that we work with. Big shout out to that team. But if you're new here to this particular season, then this is what's exciting, because these episodes are created just for you. We've got you in mind throughout this season of episodes. So,
and just before you say that, Michael, the general principle is that every episode is a stage of the journey.
Yeah.
So you can really understand,
and it's in order,
the stages and in the chronological order of how it happens, so that again, when you are making a decision whether this is the right pathway for you, you're able to listen to it all and understand exactly what you're doing. Because ultimately, our job here, and whether you choose to work with us or other agencies, is that we have to prepare you. Yep. How do you make the best decision? And you're going to make that best decision with you're educated, you understand all that. But one of the really good episodes is about agency red flags. How do you choose an agency? The things you need to.
That's always been one of my favourite topics.
One of our favourite topics, and that is one that I think is a good one to start with.
Yeah.
What are the red flags and what are the things to consider? What are the questions you should be asking? Because I know any of us, I'll sit there and answer questions all day.
Yeah.
Because that's what we should be doing, and we should have the answers.
Yeah,
now.
and so we're looking at future episodes. We've got agency red flags. We've got why did we choose Mexico City? We've touched on that a little bit today, but we're going to dive more into that, and we're going to look at the legal framework. We're going to look at the Supreme Court ruling,
The legal framework in Mexico City, and also the legal framework in the U.S.
Yes, because it's really important to understand where the two cross. And again, our pathways provide you with everything you need to complete the journey that take you into parenthood. We don't just stop at finding you a solution on the ground in Mexico. That's why we're different. We continue to strive.
Full tank.
Full turnkey. It really is. Oh my gosh. I'm just looking at the schedule of everything else. So yeah.
We're going to how you return a passport? What's the return process?
Yeah. What happens at the embassy when you do all that? What documents do you need? We'll speak to some of the lawyers that we're partnering with in the U.S. who, this is what they do day in and day out, and they're going to help you apply for, I'm going to throw in a word, CRBA, consular report of a birth abroad, to make sure that your baby has their American citizenship, American passport, and social security number to get back home.
And again, this we know that it doesn't happen in terms of finding that solution to this issue that people just don't consider. And when
agencies, sorry to interrupt you, is they just deal with one piece.
Yes.
Or they deal with this piece, and then the intended parents have to deal with everything in between, sometimes fall in between the cracks. What we're saying is we do everything.
Yeah.
And
I think for the legal, it's really important because I know for myself that's one of the concerns that I think a lot of American intended parents have, and particularly when you look at some of the media out there and you see all these I don't want to say it, but some of these absolute horror stories. Poor parents who are getting stuck in Mexico because their agency has completely let them down from a legal perspective.
Or lied to them.
Oh, absolutely. Straight out lie.
And let's call it for what it is. And there's an episode about this, and you're going to love that episode. But, we follow a legal framework. We follow a specific exit process for a reason, so you don't get delayed. That is not what this is about.
And you can be the most efficient because you manage the process.
And when you see people getting delayed, it's because they've lied on government official paperwork. They have tried to keep the surrogate on a birth certificate to get a quick exit because they think that's what you do. And we're going to address all of these glaringly obvious things that you can find through Google. We're going to talk about why this has happened.
Oh, we always hit stuff head on, we don't shy away from that.
No.
There'll be an episode about surrogate exploitation and how we manage that, the screening process and what we do and how we go above and beyond to manage the screening of our surrogates and the detail that we go into with managing our surrogates. There's going to be an episode on how do you manage Facebook and Reddit and how do you interpret some of the information.
All of that unwanted opinions that you're going to mention Mexico to your friends, and there's going to be that exhale and it's how do you deal with that? How can you equip yourself with the facts of why this is a destination that is going to change the landscape in the US of giving you choice of completing or starting your family in this way through our pathway.
And then so if you've got embryos already in the US and you need to cryo transport them into Mexico, how do we process that for you as well? Because again,
we manage all of that for you.
Exactly. What does the shipping process look like? If you need to create embryos, how does that work? Or how do you come to Mexico City to do that? If you need to select a donor,
we've got all of that covered as well. Yeah. And this is why it's really exciting it's just going to be a packed season. The guests you're going to adore. You're going to be seeing my mug, you're going to be seeing Wes and Jess and our special guests. You're going to be learning more about why we are the agency of choice for this particular program. And I really hope you're going to enjoy getting to know us better, because we're looking forward to getting to know you and learning about what's important for you.
But just a question for both of you.
Yeah.
So how would you have felt, or what difference would it have made if when you were ready to start your journey, you had a podcast that told you how everything is going to happen?
Oh, Wes, that's a good little segue.
But just look, like,
Yeah.
how amazing would that be? You know,
Would have been absolutely, it would have changed my entire experience because I would have gone in so much more prepared and informed. And I mean, my background is in academia, so I can never have too much information. That's kind
Oh,
of
we
my
know.
downfall.
And you're so lucky, listener, because you're going to get to meet Jess. And like just the other night, we was like, just can we just have some information on X, Y, and Z? The detail, the information. It was like
hey, I love details.
you're gonna be in safe hands with Jess and her team because detail is her thing.
Yeah, it is. But and I tried to pare it down. But for me, having that would have just made me feel so much more confident and educated and secure about what I was getting into and what I could expect.
And how much energy you probably wasted worrying about those things that you shouldn't have been worrying about.
Exactly. But also pointing out things that I didn't think about. You know,
Yeah.
kind of going back to what we were talking about mental health earlier and having, a lot of the emotions. I was absolutely the person who just like shoved them down and, looked at the rainbow at the end of the light at the end of the tunnel, whatever. And it's taken a long time to kind of unpack that. And it would have been so helpful to listen to the podcast episode that we're going to be doing with all of our amazing mental health partners, and talking about things that maybe I should have considered or addressed during the pregnancy. Because, I mean, I had an amazing journey, but I didn't really ever fully step into that pregnancy because I was too scared.
Of course.
And having an episode and being able to listen to an episode about that and maybe how to help me overcome that and manage that.
And how to manage your relationship. I think the partnership that we have with that team that provide that service for you, and getting your relationship fit and comfortable, or just taking stock and just making sure that all of these components are ready.
But I think when I bring it back to ours, it's like having those conversations and knowing what conversations to have and being able to have the time to think about the conversations and the things that are going to come before you're in it, before you're holding the baby, and it's having a detrimental impact.
The horse has bolted then, hasn't it? And
How do we best prepare people? And that is ultimately what we're designed to do, is in every way, shape or form, how do we prepare you through the format of surrogacy to be the best parent you can be when you do actually get to hold your baby and get everything you wanted? We've prepared you to be the best parent you can be.
Yes. Yeah. It's not our end. The end of your time with My Surrogacy Journey is not just when your baby is born. And that's, yes, our goal is to help you have your baby. But as you said, our goal is to help you be the best parent or parent that you
absolutely. This is going to be the best thing that you do.
And one final piece is that, we are very experienced with a lot of UK intended parents who are going through our Mexico City pathway, and the overriding kind of feedback we get from our podcast for Mexico City is that it absolutely, one, helps them make a decision about whether this is the right pathway for them and really helps educate them and prepare them mentally and physically. But two, it changes the way that they view surrogacy. And it's the one thing that, I mean, the feedback is amazing.
It is.
And I'm just saying that because we're sat here on
No.
But
Well, you can read the reviews. You can read the reviews on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. You can read what this is doing for people. It's the podcast has been downloaded over 17,000 times. This is a fantastic source in chronological order, and you can dip in, you can dip out, you can revisit the episodes, and there are some gorgeous stories of parents that we have supported that have been through. Please check out Georgia and Duncan's episode.
Yeah.
Because
and we'd love to create more episodes like that of real life stories of
for sure
any parents,
and we will.
And we absolutely will. But let's just talk quickly about our app, Michael.
Right. So we are the only surrogacy organisation to have our own app in the App Store and in the Google Play Store. It is called My Surrogacy Journey, Your Journey app. This is the app that has been designed to give you all of the educational content, the guidance, the support, the facts, the podcast, our socials, everything that you need. We are in your pocket. We are giving you the push notifications when you want them about your journey, your timeline, the people supporting you, your cheerleaders and your champions. The app is phenomenal. It's been a game changer, and it is supporting several hundred intended parents from 18 different countries, giving you everything you need right there when you need it. The app is one of our, apart from our gorgeous babies, one of our biggest achievements and proudest moments. It's phenomenal. Please check it out.
I love these conversations because they're so organic and they're really what the listener wants to hear.
And this is the flavour for you. So, now you can go and check out the other episodes, start diving into some of the other content. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Jess, for being here.
Only Mike and I, and like it's great to have a different dynamic. So, when you're listening to other episodes throughout the series, it might be me and Jess, it might be Michael and Jess, it might be just Jess on a road.
Yeah.
There's three hosts on this particular one, but you're going to see more and some amazing guests.
Yes.
And all through.
I was about to say this.
On our YouTube channel because we're recording.
Yes, we are. So all of these podcasts are available wherever you get your podcasts, and you can watch these on our YouTube channel as well. So feel free to check them out there too, either as shorts or as full-length episodes.
Michael, just before we go, can you tell the listener what our website,
I
our
can.
channels are, please?
Yes.
So I always get them wrong. You're so good at it.
Oh, God, and you put me on the spot. Right. So, lovely listener, you can head to our website, which is www.mysurrogacyjourney.com. There, it will ask you if you are based in the US, and you will click yes, you are, and then you will see content that is completely designed for you and is all about our pathway exclusively for you. You can follow us on social media. We have our UK socials, we have our USA, My Surrogacy Journey socials, as well as our Mexico City socials. We're on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. Oh my gosh, I think that is everything. Is it?
That is everything, and that's a really good way to wrap up.
It is. So,
Jess, we're really pleased to have you as a co-host, so thank
you, Jess.
So excited to be here.
Thank you. Right, let's wrap this phenomenal episode up. So, thank you for listening. I am Michael Johnson-Ellis. I've been one of your hosts. You have been listening to, here we go, the Mexico City edition of My Surrogacy Journey, the podcast for US intended parents. Yay! I got that straight away. It's because the coffee has helped.
Well done.
Yeah.
That is not going to happen again.
Just caveat that we sat here at 7 o'clock in the morning in
Yes.
our studio in Birmingham, UK.
Yes.
Yes, we record this podcast all over the world. We've taken it to Dublin, to Canada. We travel.
Mexico City.
And Mexico City.
And we will be taking it to the US.
We will indeed. So,
Thank you for listening.
thank you for watching.
For watching. And we are really excited to bring more episodes like this to you wherever you get your podcast.